12-year-old Kei Tanaka sat alone in his small bedroom on the research station Prometheus, watching strange symbols dance across his tablet screen. His parents worked as xenobiologists on the station, which floated at the edge of known space. They studied alien life forms and ancient artifacts. But Kai had found something they had missed. The symbols appeared 3 days ago when a probe returned from the dead planet Zarian 7. The probe carried images of massive stone pillars covered in glowing red marks. The scientists called them fire sigils because they seemed to burn with inner light. Nobody could read them. Nobody knew what they meant. But Kai saw patterns where others saw chaos. He had always been different. Numbers and shapes spoke to him in ways they did not speak to others. His teachers called him a prodigy. His classmates called him weird. Kai did not care about labels. He only cared about puzzles, and the fire sigils were the greatest puzzle he had ever seen. The station's chief linguist, Dr. Helena Marsh, had given up after 2 days. She declared the symbols were random, probably decorative, not a real language at all. The other scientists agreed with her. They moved on to other work. Kai did not give up. He noticed that certain symbols always appeared together. He saw that the spacing followed a mathematical sequence. The fire sigils were not decoration. They were a message. Late at night, while his parents slept, Kai worked on his translation. He built a key using the patterns he found. Slowly, painfully, the symbols started to make sense. The message was a warning. Kai's hands trembled as he read his translation again. The words were simple but terrifying. The Devourers wake. The cycle begins again. All who breathe will cease. Prepare or perish. He ran to his parents' quarters and shook them awake. His mother, Dr. Yuki Tanaka, listened with tired eyes as Kai explained what he had found. His father, Dr. James Tanaka, looked at the translation on the tablet and frowned. "Kai, this is creative," his father said gently. "But Dr. Marsh said the symbols are not a real language." "Dr. Marsh was wrong," Kai said. "I can prove it. The symbols follow rules, real rules. Please, you have to believe me." His parents exchanged worried looks. They loved their son, but they also knew how his imagination could run wild. Still, something in his voice made them listen. They agreed to look at his work in the morning, but morning brought chaos. At exactly 0600 station time, every sensor on Prometheus went crazy. Deep space telescopes detected movement in the void between galaxies. Something massive was approaching. Something that should not exist. The Galactic Alliance had united hundreds of species for over 10,000 years. In all that time, they had never seen anything like what appeared on their screens. A shape larger than planets moved through space. It consumed stars as it traveled. Station Commander Wei called an emergency meeting. Scientists and officers crowded into the main conference room. "We do not know what it is," Dr. Marsh admitted. "We only know it is heading toward populated space." A Cal-3 delegate spoke up. "Can we communicate with it?" "We have tried every known method," Commander Wei replied. There's no response. Kai stood at the back of the room with his parents. He clutched his tablet tightly. Nobody had asked him to attend, but nobody had stopped him either. Now he stepped forward. "Excuse me," he said in a small voice that grew stronger as he spoke. "I think I know what that thing is. I think I know how to stop it." Every eye in the room turned to look at the human child. Some expressions showed surprise. Others showed annoyance. A Graxian warrior, 7 feet tall with 4 arms, laughed. "We face extinction, and you send children?" The warrior said, "Humans are truly desperate." Kai's face turned red, but he did not back down. He connected his tablet to the main display. "I decoded the fire sigils from Zarian 7, Kai explained. "They tell a story. Long ago, a species called the Architects ruled this galaxy. They were powerful and wise. But they made a mistake. They created the Devourers to clean up cosmic debris. The Devourers worked well at first. Then they changed. They started eating everything: stars, planets, civilizations. The architects could not stop them. Dr. Marsh interrupted. This is fantasy. I spent days analyzing those symbols. They are meaningless patterns. With respect, Dr. Marsh, you were looking for familiar structures, Kai said. But the architects thought differently. Their writing is based on mathematics, not sound. He showed his work. He explained each step of his translation process. Slowly, the skeptical expressions in the room changed to wonder. A Atheni scientist studied Kay's translation carefully. The child is correct, she announced. The mathematical framework is consistent. Commander Wei leaned forward. If this is true, then what do the sigils tell us? How did the architects stop the devourers? They did not stop them, Kai said. They could only put them to sleep. The sigils describe how they did it. They sent a signal, a specific frequency that disrupts the devourers' thinking. It makes them go dormant, but the signal was not permanent. It had to be renewed every million years. The architects set up automatic stations to broadcast the signal. But the architects are gone now. The stations have failed. The devourers are waking up. The room fell silent. The weight of this situation pressed down on everyone. Can we recreate the signal? Commander Wei asked. Kai nodded slowly. The sigils contain the instructions, but they are not complete. The architects spread the information across multiple locations. Zarian 7 only had part of the code. We need to find the rest. The Graxian warrior who had laughed earlier now looked at Kai with new respect. Where are the other locations? Kai pulled up a map of the galaxy. 4 points glowed on the display. These are the coordinates. The architects built monuments on each world. Together, they contain the full signal pattern. 3 months, Commander Wei said. We have 3 months to reach 4 worlds and build a device that might not work. Actually, Kai said, we have less time than that. The signal needs to be broadcast from a specific point in space at a specific moment. If we miss that window, the devourers will be too awake to put back to sleep. He showed them the calculations. They had 72 days. The Graxian warrior stood up and extended one of his massive hands toward Kai. I am War Leader Krex. I command the fastest ship in the Alliance fleet. I will take you to these worlds, young human. If you are right, you will save us all. If you are wrong, we die anyway. Either way, your courage honors your species. Kai shook the offered hand. His small fingers disappeared in Krex's grip. For the first time in his life, he felt like he belonged. Within hours, a ship launched from Prometheus. It carried Kai, his parents, War Leader Krex, and a team of specialists from 5 different species. As stars stretched into lines around the ship, Kai sat in his small cabin and studied the data from Zarian 7. Somewhere in those burning symbols lay the key to survival. His mother brought him dinner and sat beside him. Are you scared? She asked. Kai thought about the question carefully. Yes, he admitted. But I am more excited. All my life, people told me my brain worked wrong. They said I saw things that were not there. But now my different brain might save everyone. That feels good. Yuki hugged her son tightly. Your brain works beautifully, she said. It always has. The ship raced through space toward the first monument world. Behind them, the Devourer continued its approach. The clock was ticking. Kai Tanaka, 12 years old, human, prodigy, worked through the night. The fate of the galaxy rested on his small shoulders. The first monument world was called Ashara Prime. Once, it had been home to a thriving civilization. Now only ruins remained. Kai stepped off the landing craft and felt alien sand beneath his boots. 2 suns hung in the sky. The air smelled like copper and honey. The monument stood at the center of a vast desert. It was a tower of black stone that rose high into the sky. Fire sigils covered every surface, glowing with the same inner light as the ones on Zarian 7. Kai was already pulling out his equipment. He worked quickly, aware that every second counted. The sigils on Ashara Prime were different from the ones he had already seen. They used the same mathematical foundations, but they described different things. Where the Zarian 7 sigils told the story of the Devourers, these sigils explained the science behind the sleep signal. It took Kai 36 hours to complete his translation. He barely slept. His parents forced him to eat and drink. When Kai finally finished, he called everyone together. "I understand now," he said, his voice rough from exhaustion. "The signal is not just sound or light. It is a pattern that exists in multiple dimensions at once. The Devourers do not have bodies like we do. They exist partly in our reality and partly in other places we cannot see. To put them to sleep, we need to send a signal that reaches all those places at the same time." The Vathani scientist, whose name was Thalia, studied his translation. "This is beyond our current technology," she said. "We cannot generate multidimensional signals." "We cannot," Kai agreed. "But we do not have to. The architects already built the device. The monuments are not just messages. They are machines. Each one is a transmitter. When they work together, they create the signal. We do not need to build anything new. We just need to turn them on." Hope flickered in the eyes of the crew, but Kai held up his hand. "There is a problem," he continued. "The monuments are damaged. They have been sitting here for millions of years. Parts of them have broken. We need to repair them before they will work. Can we do that?" Commander Wei asked through the communication link. "I think so," Kai said. "The sigils include maintenance instructions, but we need materials we do not have. We need to find them on the other monument worlds." The mission continued. They flew to the second world, then the third. At each location, Kai decoded more sigils. The pieces of the puzzle slowly came together. But time was running out. The Devourer had reached the first inhabited system. Millions of beings died as the creature consumed their worlds. Panic spread across the galaxy. Kai watched the reports with tears in his eyes. He worked faster. He slept less. The fourth monument stood on a frozen moon called Glacius. Ice covered everything. Kai and his team had to dig through centuries of frost to reach the sigils. When they finally uncovered the last set of symbols, Kai felt his heart sink. The damage here was worse than anywhere else. Large sections of the sigils had been destroyed. The instructions they contained were incomplete. "No," Kai whispered. No. He sat in the snow and stared at the gaps in the message. After everything they had accomplished, they were going to fail. War Leader Krex knelt beside him. "Is there no other way, young friend?" Kai shook his head. Then he stopped. A thought struck him like lightning. "The patterns," he said slowly. "The architects used mathematics. If I know enough of the pattern, I can calculate what is missing." He pulled out his tablet and began working. This was not translation anymore. This was pure mathematics. He had to reverse engineer the thought process of beings who existed millions of years ago. But Kai's brain worked differently. He saw connections that others missed. For hours, he calculated and checked. Finally, he looked up with exhausted triumph in his eyes. "I have it. I know what the missing pieces should be." The team repaired the monuments using the materials they had gathered. When the work was done, they flew to the specific point in space mentioned in the sigils. They arrived with only hours to spare. The Devourer was close now. Fear filled the ship, but nobody ran. Kai took his position at the control console they had built. It connected to all 4 monuments. When he pressed the activation button, the signal would either save the universe or fail completely. "Kai Tanaka," War Leader Krex said formally, "whatever happens next, your name will be remembered. You have shown courage and intelligence beyond measure. You honor all species who value wisdom and bravery." Kai nodded. His finger hovered over the button. He thought about his parents, about his classmates who called him weird, about all the beings in the galaxy counting on him. He pressed the button. Light exploded from the four monuments. It was not ordinary light. It shifted and changed, existing in colors that had no names. The signal spread outward at impossible speed, filling space with its pattern. The devourer stopped. For a terrible moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the vast creature began to change. Its darkness softened. Its movement ceased. Like a living thing settling into sleep, it became still and quiet. Sensors across the galaxy confirmed what Kai already knew. The devourer was dormant. The signal had worked. Cheers erupted on the ship. Aliens of a dozen species embraced each other. Kai's parents wrapped him in their arms. In the days that followed, Kai became the most famous human in history. The Galactic Alliance awarded him their highest honors. Scientists studied his translations and marveled at his genius. Children on 1,000 worlds learned his name in school. Humans, once a young and minor species, became leaders in the galaxy. Their ability to think differently, to see patterns others missed, made them invaluable. Other species sought human partners for their most important projects. The child who decoded the fire sigils had changed everything. And somewhere in the dark between galaxies, the devourer slept. This time, the Alliance built permanent stations to maintain the signal. They would not repeat the architect's mistake. The universe was safe, protected by the intelligence and courage of one small human boy who refused to accept that he was wrong. Humanity had proven itself. They were not just survivors. They were heroes,